Welcome to the thematic talk session, From Crisis to Chances, Unleashing Opportunities in Challenging Times at Entrepreneur Day 2020. The session will begin soon and will be conducted in English without simultaneous interpretation. 歡迎各位出席創業日2020嘅專藝維基創逆市奇蹟。我哋即將開始並將以英語進行，不設即時傳譯服務。During the session, you're welcome to raise questions through the Q&A box next to the video frame. Selected questions will be asked at the Q&A session later. 論壇期間，大家可以隨時喺直播畫面旁邊嘅 Q&A 位置提問，我哋將會喺稍後嘅答問環節代為發問。Today, we're happy to have representatives from the academic and business fields to share how technological innovations and scientific researches have created business opportunities in this challenging time. Without further ado, let's welcome Professor Yeung from the Department of Chemical and Biological Engineering and Division of Environment and Sustainability of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Professor Yeung, please.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Hong Kong Trade Development Council for giving me the opportunity to share some of our work and achievements, okay? And also to the organizer of this particular session. So today, the talk will focus mainly on multi-level antimicrobial polymers for a healthy environment. If we have enough time, I will also discuss about other technology that is currently in the pipeline for commercializations. The main motivation that I have, okay, in working in this particular area is because after returning to Hong Kong, I realized that large-scale infection events actually occur in a very regular interval, okay, since 1996 until now. It happens almost every 4 to 5 years. Secondly, there's growing concern about microbial resistance and tolerance to existing treatment, to current antibiotic and disinfectants, okay? And in fact, it is known that the worldwide prevalence of so-called antimicrobial resistant related infection is on the rise, okay? And this is very, very important. It had a big impact on not only on our health, but also to the economy overall. To give you a little bit of a timeline and an approach of how we do our things here, is like, first of all, we do a lot of our fundamental research in the laboratory, okay? Once we have a concept that is in the developmental stage, we usually partner with government organizations, okay, in order to field test it in a real application settings. Then we will engage like partners in the industry in order to do certification and product development. So I had actually started the work in this particular area of infection control back in 2003. Because at that time, we were very fortunate to get a quite generous grant to develop an air purifier. But everybody knows in 2003, around March, we had SARS, okay? And at that time, immediately, we were tasked to develop an air sanitizer instead of air purifier. So we were required, actually, to field test, okay, the prototype immediately in government clinics. And in fact, we come up with the first generation of catalytic air sanitizer that can kill 90% of the airborne microorganisms in a single pass. And toward later part of the year, we were approached by one of our industrial sponsors who had a very good relationship with the city government of Beijing. And at that time, Beijing is trying to bet for the 2008 Olympics. And they are quite concerned that SARS is going to become a recurrent event. So they come up with a small think tank to come up with a dream solution, okay, that they can use during the Olympic. And they basically shared with us the spec that they wanted to develop. And that include an antimicrobial coating, okay, that can be rapidly deployed in large areas, and that it can last for at least 30 days because Olympic lasts about 25 to 28 days. It had to be made out of very safe ingredients that are approved by US EPA and FDA. It had to reduce bacteria and viruses, okay, by at least 70% in half an hour, because they believe that is sufficient to reduce the risk. So immediately within 6 months, we come up with the first generation, okay, that can achieve 90% in half an hour. Fortunately, SARS didn't continue, but we are quite intrigued by this concept, so we keep on investing time to further develop it. So during the generation 7 of the iteration, we can achieve 99% kill of bacteria and inactivation of viruses within 1 minute. And that is just in time for the H1N1 pandemic in 2008. And that opens a lot of doors for us to work with hospitals under the auspices of Hospital Authority. We actually deploy the technology, for example, in isolation ward, in ICU, even in regular ward, okay? And we also work with the Center for Health and Protection to test it, okay, in a real setting in elderly homes. Much later on, we were then approached by a company to say, okay, can we make it into an antimicrobial filter so that we can remove airborne, okay, pathogens and during this time, we come up with this like antimicrobial filters, which is the only one that have been rated for MERS-CoV. Okay, it can kill MERS-CoV within like 1 minute. Okay, and this is again we had to field test it in Haven of Hope. Okay, palliative care. Okay, unit, and only by doing that we can actually confirm okay the performance of the antimicrobial filters under real conditions. And in fact, it received the 2019 Gold Medal Award from Geneva, and it had been used in the Wuhan Hoshinsan Hospital and many of the other like hospitals in Shanghai and Guangzhou during the COVID pandemic in early part of this year. Okay. The other technology that then we developed is the multi-level antimicrobial polymers, or MAP1, which is currently being used in more than in school, long-term care facilities, clinics, and public places. Okay. So the antimicrobial filters is very good in killing viruses and also bacteria. We actually did a lot of testing in the State Key Laboratory for respiratory diseases. And during our study, during the field test study, we realized that developing this filter for use in the air conditioning system could be far more effective, okay? And in fact, we carried this study in the Haven of Hope Christian Alliance Haven of Hope Christian services, okay? And we also carried out like CFD modeling in order to show the performance of this type of filter materials. So this is done in the real residents, okay, in their elderly home. And as you can see, as the material work, it can actually very rapidly clean up the bacteria in the room by placing it in the air conditioning system. The most recent one, which is the main focal point of this talk, is the multi-level antimicrobial polymers, okay? To give you a little bit of a concept about this material, it's actually designed, okay, to prevent microorganisms, to repulse them, okay, to prevent them from colonizing surfaces, and also to kill them upon contact in a very rapid way. It's very fast and effective against bacteria, phages and viruses, spores, okay? And it's also very safe, okay? Not only to human, but also to the environment. And the other important thing is that the material is really formable. You can make it into different products. You can incorporate it into different materials. And this material are actually made, okay, that they are assembled, okay, in a way that make them very, very potent, okay, antimicrobial. So it can show, like, if you put it on a surface, bacteria cannot colonize it. If it come into contact with this surface, it gets killed very rapidly. So it's very good for both, also for the drug resistant, or what we call superbugs. Okay, and also third-party tests have been carried out to show that this material is also very good against viruses. different type of viruses that are very infective, including measles, mumps, and rubella, as well as two of the what we call like the gold standard for testing disinfectant. One is the feline calicivirus. The other one is MS2 phage. And recent third-party testing, okay, shows that this particular coating is also very effective against human coronaviruses, okay? So as we mentioned, like all of the work in our lab is not only, it doesn't go directly into the into commercial part because we wanted to make sure that it's actually effective, it's very safe. So we usually partner, for example, in this case, with the hospital authority, with Kowloon Hospital specifically. They had the problem that the patient partition curtain oftentimes get contaminated, and they find a lot of superbugs on the surface of this curtain. And these are the main cause of what we call hospital-acquired infections. So they asked us, because they had tried many commercial like version of curtains, and they find that their performances is not quite to their satisfaction. So they invited us to try this technology in their place for 6 months, wherein we have taken close to 2,000 samples. And we shows that it can provide long-term protection on the surface, killing the superbug to very high degree, okay? And when we did a longer-term study, we know that this material can maintain 70% reduction in 10 minutes. Remember, in the previous expert panel recommendation, 70% in 30 minutes is enough to reduce the risk of infection. Now, this is 70% in 10 minutes. We can still maintain it for at least 20 weeks, okay? And we are not, usually we don't do it only on a single item or a single place. We usually also do it in other places to confirm the results. So in this case, we engage Haven of Hope Christian Services in one of their elderly homes. We actually, in this case, formulated it so that it can be used together with the fabric softener, so they can use it in their bed linens. Why do we want to use bed linens? Because most of the elderly people spend a lot of time on bed, especially the bed-bound residents. And at the same time, the beds are heavily contaminated with many bacteria that can cause diseases. So this is the target area that we did. So usually linens are changed once a week. Okay, so you cannot really go in and disinfect and do anything about it. But we can show that by using this MAP1, we can keep, okay, the number of bacteria to very low level by at least 90% for the whole week, okay? And that is very, very encouraging. As I mentioned before, this material is very flexible. It can be used in many products. And one of the things that make it very, very powerful is that it allows us to respond to the COVID-19. So when the COVID-19 start to happen, we work with a company to develop a mass-scale coating system that can be used on general surfaces and could maintain protection for at least 90 days. And that is now being used for at least 500 daycare centers, schools, elderly homes, and even public places and recreational areas. We work, like, for example, with nurses in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital to actually develop a hand sanitizer based on this technology. In this case, we make a hand foam. And then the hand foam can actually work for at least 4 hours, okay? So that any germs that get into their hand, within 3 minutes, you reduce it by 99.9%, okay? Any type of germs that get into the hand can be reduced very rapidly. And the interesting thing here is, like, at that time, we want to engage both the male and the female nurses. So we have to make it in 2 different colors. So we make it blue and pink. And then at the same time, we put different type of fragrances. We put different type of cosmetic ingredients like hyaluronic acid, vitamin D, and it is highly compatible. It can be used for that, okay? So it makes it very interesting for many type of different products. So it allows us to then try out Kappa paint, which is one of the more popular paint in Hong Kong, okay? So we decided, can we use it in paint so that it can be, it can last for longer time, maybe for 5 years, 10 years, okay? And so when we formulate it into the paint material, and then we start to challenge it with the spores, okay, from the black mold and from the white mold. And you can see here from the images, the top one is without this MAP1, okay. The bottom one is the same paint that we just add a small amount of MAP1. You can see that after repeated challenge over 8 weeks, eventually the paint on top will start to become moldy, but the one that contained MAP1 remained pristine. Okay, so that means to say it have very good sporicidal property. It's not only good for virus and bacteria, but it's also good for spores. We then work with the Water and Services Department of Hong Kong government, okay, because they are quite concerned. A lot of their pipe, okay, it's get colonized by bacteria to form biofilm, and it causes biofouling. And at the same time, sometimes it's lead to corrosion. So we work with them to formulate this into a more permanent coating that can last for 10 to 20 years, okay, and prevent this from happening on the pipe, okay. And this is currently being pilot tested in Hong Kong, okay. And more recent one that we just completed a study on is on Drainage Services Department, because most of the drainage system usually contain a lot of bacteria, and some of these bacteria actually corrode the concrete because they excrete a lot of acids. So we use this coating material to protect the concrete and prevent the bacteria from colonizing the concrete and killing them, and therefore prevent all this corrosion that you can see on the pieces of concrete, okay, that is exposed to the drainage environment, okay. So you can see this technology can be used not only for safeguarding health, but also protecting infrastructure, and also be good for the environment. The more recent things that we had worked on, I'm sorry. Okay. I think something happens, okay.
Hi, Professor Yeung. Can you hear
I'm
us?
sorry,
Yep.
something happened. The screen got frozen, okay. So I'm trying to solve the problem, okay. So it's basically the whole thing just frozen at this moment, okay. I cannot actually move the screen at this moment. Sorry about that. Okay.
You have reached it.
Perhaps you can fix the computer first and we can get back to you later, or you can supplement the information in the Q&A session, maybe.
Sorry.
Does it look fine to you? Hi, Professor Yeung, can you hear us? Perhaps we can move on to another speaker's presentation and let Professor Yeung supplement the information later. So next, may we invite Professor Man, Dean of Faculty of Engineering of the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, to share how his team collaborated with local manufacturers for producing protective face shields with 3D printing technology. Please welcome Professor Man.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm sorry that I have to wear this and talk to you. What I'm going to share with you in the next 10-15 minutes is about a product development that can happen within a few days. It's the story we have in Hong Kong Polytechnic University when we started doing this face shield development project. As early as February the 8th, which is just after the Chinese New Year's holiday, we have already suffered from this COVID-19. And in fact, in those days, it was pretty frightening. The university is closed, the society is pretty quiet, and more frighteningly is in the hospital, there are rumors that the PPE, that's personal protective equipment, are not enough. And we have been approached by Queen Elizabeth Hospital to help them to print eye visors. But on the same day, 2 days after we started working with QE, we've been approached by the hospital authority. They told us that they have not quite enough stockage of the face shield. So they asked us how we can help to manufacture face shield. So a face shield is something very simple that you see people wearing it quite commonly. But when you don't have those supply, you are really worrying, especially in the hospital. A face mask is just to protect your mouth, your nose, but it cannot protect your eyes, right? So an eye visor is important, or simply a face shield is more effective. And in fact, the HA, they need about 30,000 pieces a day if the worst comes to the worst. So how can we produce 30,000 pieces of face shields a day? Remember, in Hong Kong, we hardly have any mass manufacturing equipment. All these production machines have been shifted into China. And in those days, in the early February, nothing can come across, especially this PPE. So we have to think how we can deal with this problem. So we start about 3D printing, because I'm leading the 3D printing project. So let's look at how we started. We were provided by HA, these shields that you see in the screen. Those, we believe, were patented stuff. So we will not simply copy it. So we start looking through the patent files, and there are a lot of different types of face shields. Of course, we cannot copy other people. So we started our route to develop our own stuff. So we look at the requirement of the face shields. We go through all the requirements. But most importantly, it must be light in weight, anti-fog. Also, it can be used by male and female. And for the hospital use, it has to be disposable, low cost. This is the design that we came up with within 6 days. Each day, we have one design, and then we work with the hospital authority, infection control nurse, and they come and try and give us feedback. And then we do the modification overnight, and then we print it. The next day, our nurses came again, and all this go on for 6-7 days. And finally, we managed to design the last one, the design 6, that's the final one. But after that, we still couldn't be quite happy about this, because we found out that the seal between the head and the rim is not perfect. And then we realized that we used the wrong type of head size or shape. So we asked our School of Design colleagues to give us some data about the head size of Asian, which is quite different from the European, the Caucasian. So we got all those data from our School of Design. They have a lot of those data about the Asian head's profile and shape. And we modify them according to our shapes, especially the people in Hong Kong, the size of the shape, the size of the head, and the profile of a head. And then we modify that. And then we came up with the last design. So the whole concept started on the 9th of February, and we finished all the designs with a lot of customer input within 7 days. And we finalized the design on the 15th of February. And then we transferred the technology to a local manufacturer, because in parallel, while we are doing all the development work, the company was running around, looking for injection molding machines and all those mold making facilities. And at the end, they managed to find there are still some factories in Yeung that can help us to manufacturing all those seals. So on the 25th of February, all the technology and mass production, technology transfer completed, and they've started to mass production. So within 16 days, we solved a major problem for the hospital authority about the shortage of the face shield. And then they start delivering the products in early March. So the whole issue was completed. So these are some of the photos that during the 15th to the 25th, before the production was delivered, the mass production was delivered, we have to manufacture using 3D printing to produce those face shields to different departments of the government, such as the Fire Services Department, the Hospital Authority, the Logistics Department. At the end, we managed to produce 2,600, that's 2,600 shields to other departments, as well as some of our own students and staff who needs to go to the hospital for training. These are the shields that we've produced. And then after that, we thought we have produced the face shields for the medical frontline colleagues. But how about our general public? How can we protect ourselves from such a horrible pandemic? So we sat down on the table and then came up with another idea to make reusable face shields for the general public. Just think about it, in an advertisement the government put out, tell us how to prevent or protect ourselves. Just imagine there are a lot of sanitary cleaners, the ladies who clean the toilets, the public toilets. The government tells us when we finish using the toilet, we should cover the lid. But there are a lot of workers that need to clean the toilet. What do they use to protect themselves? So that is the driving force for us to develop all these sort of things. Again, the design principle, low cost, must be reusable, because we need to have concern about the environment. Comfortable, and more importantly, because we hope that all the old age home, the health caretakers, the providers, they can use them, and in the old age house, the old age population can look at the facial expression of the health service providers. And also, we hope that all these transparent face shields, reusable face shields, can help us to reboot our connections, to reboot our economy. So that is the starting point, the design principles. So when we come up with these low-cost processes, and we will not use injection molding, because injection molding is a very quick process, but we need a lot of investment. Making the mold is pretty expensive. So we aim for vacuum forming, which is a relatively low production process, low production cost process. Reusable, we need to use the same materials so that we can clean them easily. And we use 3D printing to do the rapid prototyping. And then we also have vacuum forming machines and laser cutting machines in our industrial center for us to do all the prototyping. To show you the development stage, it all started with a gray box. If you look at the left-hand side, it is just a simple, transparent gray box. That is how we started. Right? And then bit by bit, stage by stage, we came up with all different types of You can see that we have all different the front, how to make it comfortable, how to allow airflow right above your face, how to protect your hair, all different type of prototypes that we've built thanks to the 3D printing machine. If you look at the left, that's the big 3D machine that we are using. And on the right, you see all these printing mold inserts for the vacuum, right? And then right at the bottom is the vacuum forming machine that we have. So with this equipment, we managed to produce all different types within a very short time. That is the product. Right? It's just a simple piece of plastics, cover your face, but you can wear it and reuse it, wash it. So we send this out to different NGOs and different users, ask them for feedback. So you can see ladies using it to wash the hairs of the old-aged guys, looking after the seniors, and also the sanitary cleaners. They all wear those to protect them. And we give quite a number to different NGOs and get their feedback, and then we modify them again. So this is, say, now we try to reboot our economy, how to have people working as a normal life, because this COVID-19 will be with us for a while. So how can we cannot shut down the economy all the time. So how can we protect ourselves during such a situation? Take, for example, in the left, you can see the beautician is working with the face shield. And also in the restaurant, we cannot close the restaurant all the time, but how can we maximize our protection? It's me eating the noodles, wearing the mask, the face shield. And we also develop kids form for the kids, right? Because in the kindergarten, and the children, they cuddle each other, they touch each other's face, their eyes, and they're easily infected. So we develop the face shields for the kids as well. So these are the different applications we can think of using the face shields. So this is how we hope we can reboot our economy, we can bring our normal life back with such a contribution. So to sum it up, so we need to work together to innovate, to design, and to build new gadgets to protect ourselves. That's how we develop this face shield, and it's a little contribution to fight against the COVID-19. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Mann, for the insightful sharing. Next, may we invite Ms. Katherine Cheung, Chief Marketing Officer of Snapask, to share how its platform has grown during hard times and set new trend of online tutoring. Please welcome Katherine.
All right, thank you so much for having me today in the Entrepreneur Day. So I'm Katherine from Snapask, so I take care of all the marketing activities in all the regions. So today I really want to share with you some of the secrets and stories of Snapask success, and perhaps you can copy and paste some of the secrets and then the tips so that you can grow your business in hard times like this. So a few years ago, I joined Snapask as one of the earliest marketing team members. So back then, we were focusing more on brand building, user education, and also acquisition. We weren't focusing more of like other stuff. So our goal is to build the best online learning experience. So, but to be very honest, online learning platform, it's very hard to start and even harder to win. So we always remind ourselves of the great battle between Uber and taxi. So despite taxi already have the countless transactions per day, huge supply, and also the existing user behavior, Uber still win. Why? And then we soon realized that users actually don't care about how big you are, but what they care more is how happy you could make them. So in the past, when you call taxi, it's a lot of time you got very frustrated. And then a lot of time that even the driver's skills is not that good, you cannot really give them some rating, or you cannot really feedback to them. You can only be pissed, and then you just leave. So back when Snapask just started, we want to figure out what are the really happiest moments when users are using the app. So we do countless research and countless survey to find out that it's actually the instant experience that they enjoyed most. So during the pandemic time, they cannot go to school, they cannot find their friends for help. So this instant support and instant resources become very, very important to them for their learning. So that's why we make one small product change, that is to move all the fast responding and always online tutor to every single page possible, so that whenever user comes in, when they need that help, they can always find it immediately. And this change is very, very incredible, because a better experience means they got a faster match to a tutor, and then more referrals also means more students know about Snapask. And then our growth is very powerful during that time. And it's not just like that, because we also want to reward those tutors who are always online and always being very fast to respond to students' questions. So more referrals also means more questions and more retention. So when students refer more friends, they got more questions to ask. And tutor side, they can always pick up more questions, and then they can earn more on our platform. And it also makes them harder to leave our platform. So for us, creating happiness means growth. So that's why we really want to, during this pandemic time, to make sure that keep them in this happiness loop, better experience, faster matching, and also more referral. So this is the things that why Snapask could grow during the pandemic time. And having only a happiness loop is never enough. We also wanted to make sure that we build a one-stop learning platform for all the students. So when you think about that, right, when school suspend and you cannot go outside, and then it's very hard for you to ask for resources, then you have to be really frustrated, and then you can have a lot of free time, but you don't know what to do. So for Snapask, we want to make sure that even if they don't have question at hand, if they don't have homework or exam tomorrow, they can still be engaged with our platform. So for Snapask, what we do is that we constantly exceeding their expectation. So during the school suspension time, Snapask quickly put over some live classes and Snapask courses, so as to make sure that even though they don't have a question right now, they can still watch video, they can still do our quizzes, so as to make sure that they keep engaged and follow with their learning pace. So right now, if you have this like happiness loop, and then you can make sure that it's a one-stop learning platform for them, I guess it's all about how you grow the audience by providing the best experience to them. So 2 tips. One is on making sure that they have the best experience, keeping them very happy, because you don't want to make sure the user is angry. And then the second thing is definitely on providing a one-stop learning to them. So a little more background about what Snapask is. So we started off in 2015. We are an instant online tutoring matching platform. So it's very simple to use. Once you have homework questions or you don't understand a certain concept, just simply take a picture and then choose the subject, and then make sure that you illustrate what are your problems is. And then tutor will go match with you, and then you can go inside a chat room to illustrate, and the tutor will guide you through step by step on what are the message and what are the concepts that you might be missing. And based on like the 5 years growth, and then right now Snapask is serving over 3.5 million students across 8 regions in Asia. And we also have over 350,000 tutors available on our platform, ready to pick up students' questions. And then we have a belief that it begins with a question. So when you look at a student's life cycle per day, right, it's very hard for them to really sit down and absorb all the knowledge within one day. So when Snapask comes in, it makes sure that they can have the self-learning attitude. Whenever they have a homework stuck, they can always find the right help, and also make sure that they can prepare for tomorrow. Because if you're stuck with one question, right, it's very hard for you to understand maybe what are the potential teaching materials that you will encounter tomorrow. So what Snapask is really about is that making sure that we track the learning progress of each student, and also making sure that they can always get the help when they need it. And you may also wonder what are the tutors' background and how do we vet for our tutors and who are they to be able to teach and deliver quality sessions. So within Snapask's platform, so over 75% of tutors will be fed out because we want tutors to not just have a great academic result, we also want them to be really patient and then be able to illustrate an idea very clearly and also guide through students step by step. So this is what we call it a very interactive learning support. It's not just I tell you this is the answer and then you just copy it. So we also launched, like I mentioned, during the pandemic time, we find out that having only Q&A service wouldn't be very sufficient for students to learn. So we also developed Snapask Academy that will have a lot of personalized learning content for them. So it could be video, it could be courses, it could be article, for them to support their online learning. And then we also give them personalized learning content so that they can revisit what are the concepts that they've mastered, and then what are the concepts that they need to work on. And we also have Snapask Courses, and that will be an immersive learning experience. Why we call it Snapask Courses, why would it different than other online courses is that we want to make sure students have a clear learning outcome. Whenever they watch a video, whenever they do a certain task, they have a clear goal of what are the exact outcome per each actions that they do on our platform. So that's why every courses will have one service. So for now, we have Chinese writing courses in Hong Kong. That will be whenever you finish a video, you can always hand in some of your writing essays to us, and then we'll give it back to you within 7 days. And we also have an annual theme that is Why School. And then Snapask want to make sure that students understand that learning shouldn't only happen in one place. So it also very much related to what we're experiencing right now during the pandemic time, right? So we always say that, okay, even though schools suspend, it doesn't mean that you cannot learn, because learning shouldn't really be stuck within one place. It should be you self-directly feeling curious about things, and then you go find the answer. And once you have this process, right, then definitely you will find this is maybe the best way for you to learn in the future. So this is what our theme for this year, Why School. So Snapask is also having different branches, but I won't go over them in detail today. But you can always, I'll make sure that you can find everything online. And just to close this, Snapask's mission is always about maximizing efficiency with personalized learning experience. So thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Katherine, for sharing. Now we'll try to connect back to Professor Yeung to see whether he can supplement the information that he missed out just now and whether he can fix the technical issue just now. So maybe we'll just have to wait for a bit to see whether we can get back to Professor Yeung.
Hi, are you able to hear me now?
Okay, so Professor Yeung, you can continue your presentation.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Can you please share your screen with the audiences? Because we cannot view your screen right now.
Okay. Okay, a moment ago we discussed about some of the application for the MAP1. In fact, one of the things that we found out that we can do with MAP1 is actually we can electrospond it into fibers. And these fibers can then be very good for filtrations, okay? And in fact, it's have 98% filtration, which is better than A95. And at the same time, it's more breathable. So you can use it as a facial mask or filter for the air purifiers, because we can make them in a very thin layer, okay, on the surface. and it can achieve very high bactericidal and also virucidal performances. And one thing that we also did is actually we put in these small like capsules wherein we can put fragrances, like for example, peppermint or lemon oil, so that to increase the comfort of people that are wearing masks, because nowadays people are wearing masks for a very long period of time, maybe the whole day, okay? So you wanted to make sure you also address the comfort of the person. So these are some of the things that we had to think about when we try to look for opportunities, not only on the efficiency, but we also need to make sure that people would like to want it. So we need to address both the need and the want, okay, of the of a person. So I can go very briefly on some of the technologies that we are currently on the pipeline, that we are trying, that we are going into the translation into commercial products. We have been, over the year, we have been coming up with new technologies, different ways to safeguard health against infectious diseases. And one of the technology that we had been used, okay, to control the microorganism that cause odor problems, okay? And this had actually been successfully being used, okay, in Hong Kong. We are actually using it in more than 500 sites in Hong Kong with partnership with Drainage Services Department to suppress odor problem. And in fact, it had been used in many of the large scale like events in Hong Kong that related to water. Okay, like for example, the harbor race, the Dragon Boat carnivals, and even in art show that had been carried out in one of the flood control reservoir in Hong Kong, okay? In addition to this, like more recently, because a lot of people are talking about COVID-19, the new coronavirus can be transmitted through fecal droplets. So there's a lot of concern, and we have been approached by both people in hospital as well in the drainage department to see whether we can actually create technology that can work for this. And in fact, we basically strengthened this particular technology to address that. So this is how it looked like as it worked. Okay, so you put it into, let us say, into the flush toilet. It is salt water. So the salt water will activate it, okay, and then it will start releasing some of this disinfectant that is very effective against both bacteria and viruses. So this is a 25 days study that we have conducted so far. It can kill E. coli, which is our common like coliform bacteria that is found in toilet water, as well as we benchmarked it against one of the more difficult to kill phages, which is the MS2 phage. So we can see that even after 25 days, against virus, it can still achieve 96%, okay, kill within 10 minutes. So that will significantly lower the risk of transmission from the toilet droplets. The other one that we are working on is actually light disinfection technology, because there are many items that you cannot just expose to disinfectants. You cannot heat it up, okay? So there are things that you need other type of way of disinfecting the surface. So in this case, we use light disinfection. We design it in a way that it make it extremely safe. So we built like both handheld devices as well as robotic devices. And we field tested it again on the elderly home on their bed linens, because we know there's a lot of bacteria on those bed linens. And we can actually show that it's very effective against superbugs. And currently we're working with Lee Heisen Foundation to build some of this like prototype system along with high school students to donate, okay, to elderly home during this difficult period of COVID-19. So these are devices that they can use in order to quickly disinfect, let us say, bed linens without like worrying too much, or tabletop or floors, okay, using this type of devices. And more recently, we have been working on looking what will happen post like once there's a vaccine for coronavirus. One of the concern is like for vaccination, let us say China alone, you need to vaccinate more than 1 billion people. And then there are now many experts now thinks that you probably need to get vaccinated more than once every year because the antibodies for the coronavirus actually disappear very rapidly from the body. So most likely you need to take this type of vaccine shot 2-3 times a year, okay? So in that particular case, one of the most important bottleneck is basically the vaccination, the syringe, okay? The system. So, and also the healthcare worker that is going to do the vaccination. So we wanted to develop a technology, okay, that is painless, that is very easy to implement so that people can self-administer. And since these needles are made out of glass-like material, okay, you can easily dispose of it without any sharp waste. So you can actually make it
Sorry to interrupt, Professor Yeung.
no medical waste and being effective and inexpensive. So this
Hi,
is
Professor
basically
Yeung. Can you
what
hear
I
us?
would like to talk about. Okay, so
Hi,
thank
Professor
you.
Yeung. Thank you, Professor Yeung, for sharing. We will now move on to the Q&A session. May we now welcome Professor Mann and Katherine back to the stage. You're still welcome to raise questions through the Q&A box next to the video frame. So we do have some questions from the floor. So first of all, there are always opportunities after a challenge. Do you see any rising trends or business needs after the COVID-19 crisis? This is not directed to any speaker, so anyone will be welcome to answer.
Well, I think there will be a lot of new chances because the economy will be very different. A lot of shops will have been closed, a lot of business will disappear. So this is a cycle, I mean, a product life cycle, what we call in manufacturing. Everything have up and down. So whether we can manage to grab this opportunity instead of sitting back and waiting for the rain to come, can we create something ourselves? That's the whole idea. That the presentation I gave is we develop a new product within 2 weeks. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to develop new products, new business ideas, new business processes. So it's full of hope.
So for us, right, I guess the COVID-19 situation really opens a new gateway for us to rethink about what does it mean to really learn. Because we always, like in the past, before the pandemic happens, right, we think that online learning or going through online is something that is very far away, and that is something that, like even for teachers or schools, it's kind of having an invisible door for them to push open. But after this COVID-19 situation, then people start to think, right, if I can do it online, at home safely, without any distraction, then what are the possible possibilities and opportunities that we can tackle on? And for online teaching in this world, right? So whenever you want to listen back or you want to pause a bit and then think about it, it's possible. But within a physical school sector, then it's very hard to achieve. So it's actually giving us a moment and an opportunity to rethink what are the best way for empowering students to learn, and then what are the things that we could do more to make sure that students can learn in the most efficient way.
From my point of view, I agree with both Ms. Cheung and also Dean Mann. It is very important that we be nimble, okay, during this time, this particular time. And actually, we need to think outside of box, okay, to solve some of the problem that we have, because we are in a very extraordinary time. We cannot use ordinary measure, okay, to deal with the problem that we are seeing right now. And with problem and challenges, there's a lot of opportunities, okay? So it's just like how we look at it, okay? And from my own experience, like investment on something that we know as a long-term problem is very important, okay? Because I think everybody knew infection diseases is a long-term problem. It's going to be with us for a very long time. And how do we react to that? Okay, new technology had to be developed. Unfortunately, for example, a lot of antibiotics is more than 20, 30 years old. And then a lot of disinfectant had been here for almost 50 years. There's not a lot of innovation, not a lot of investment in this area, which is something that we really, really need. Okay.
So there's another question, but this is addressing to Professor Yeung. So the audiences are actually interested in whether MAP1 can be used as surgical mask in order to allow surgical masks to be reused for several times.
We have been talking with some of the application, because one of the applications is actually being used in a textile and cloth. That will actually impart it with antimicrobial, antiviral properties. But we are actually, a lot of time when we do this, we do have to do a lot of like testing to confirm that it's actually work as we want it to work, and at the same time be safe. Okay. The one that I have shown you just a moment ago is like to take the MAP1 itself and make it into fibers, and that fibers is then supported in the common like cotton, like linen, and that can be used for filter. Okay, in fact, like it's actually have better breathability and better like filtration than N95 masks. Okay, and at the same time, it's a bactericidal and antiviral. It kills both bacteria and viruses. It's not only filter them, but also kill them. And we also demonstrate we can do other features. Like, for example, we can put fragrances, because like now that we are wearing masks for a very long time, we wanted to make sure that people will be comfortable with it. So we can put peppermint oil, we can put like lemon oil to keep your breath fresh, okay, and keep you comfortable while wearing the mask. So just like Dean Mann had mentioned, it had to be tailored. It had to be made in a way that people will feel comfortable using it. Otherwise, people won't use it because it's not comfortable, correct? So.
Thank you. And another question addressing to Katherine. So what have surprised you most while serving your students since the pandemic? And also, the audiences would also like to look into whether you consider Snapask to have any collaboration with traditional institutions.
So I'll address the collaboration question first. So yes, Snapask is actively looking to collaborate more with the traditional sector, because I guess for education and for online education, very specific, we cannot do everything all by ourselves. So we tend to partner with people who have teaching experience, people who have this fantastic idea of how to deliver a message, how to give awesome learning experience to students. So this is something that we really want to do in the future. And it's also in our pipeline to really produce more high quality content to make sure that students get the best learning experience even through our online platform. And then for the first question is that what surprised me most when I see students are using Snapask, right, is that students actually need to stimulate a little bit to be able to ask questions. So when you have a homework, right, when you have an exam deadline, then it's very natural that you have questions because you're doing revision. And during the pandemic time, the homework amount is less compared to the past, right? But when they like use our quizzes feature, or when they watch our video courses, they can actually understand more by just looking at the video, and then they will have questions towards the learning materials. So I guess this creates a very good cycle for them to absorb knowledge first, and then they can ask based on what they don't understand.
So there is a last question addressing to Professor Mann. It is rather technical. So what are the disadvantages of using vacuum forming process instead of injection molding?
It's the cost issue, and also the manufacturing processes determine the type of products, or otherwise the type of products determine the manufacturing process. For the major properties that we are looking for that face shield is a large transparent plastic shields. And there are a lot of materials available that we can use. And all you need is to cut it at the right shape and then mold it in the same form. So you don't really need an injection molding machine to make the equipment, to make the products. Especially the initial investment on an injection molding machine as well as the mold are pretty expensive. So the whole idea is to get a low cost product out as soon as quickly as possible.
So thank you, Professor Yeung, Professor Mann, and Katherine. That was an inspiring and fruitful discussion. Coming to the end of this session, please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen to send us your feedback. You may also click on the link below event description under the video frame to follow the questionnaire. We hope you do enjoy and take the most from the event for developing your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you.
Thank you.